Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. Today I have some very important guests on the show. I have Wyndal Gordon and Landon White. These are two distinguished attorneys in Baltimore City, and they're going to talk about the Korryn Gaines case. Now I'm going to start off by just providing some basic information about each one of them. The first attorney is Wyndal Gordon. He's a distinguished attorney. He's a graduate of Morgan State. Also, he graduated from the University of Baltimore School of Law. He's worked on many high-profile cases. He's been featured on programs like CNN and Headline News. He's the past president of the Monumental City Bar Association. He has received numerous awards for various different things. He's licensed in Maryland and also in the federal courts. Also, we have the brother Landon White. I've worked with him before. He's a great brother. He's a graduate from Howard University Law School, and also I think you're at Morgan State as well, right? You graduated from Morgan State.
Make sure I represent for Morgan State.
Right.
Come on.
Y'all not messing with Howard. But
Wyndal went.
Yeah. But anyway, so we had these great brothers here. They just successfully tried the Korryn Gaines case, a major accomplishment. I have to congratulate these brothers. I have to salute them. This is a case that is important for civil rights. So I understand that both of you represented different members of the family. So can you tell, the audience who you represented in the case?
So I represented the estate of Korryn Gaines. I also represented Korryn's mother, Rhonda Dormius, and Korryn's daughter, Carson Courtney. I'm Wyndal, by the way.
And I'm Landon White. I represent the father of Ryan.
Okay. Yeah, your connection is a little slow, Landon, for some reason. So let's get right into it. Mm-hmm. Can you let the people know what were the allegations in your complaint and who was Korryn Gaines?
The allegations in our complaints basically dealt with constitutional torts on the state and federal level, as well as some common law battery tort claims. Basically, we brought a claim under Article 24 and 26 of the Maryland Declaration of Rights and 42 U.S.C. 1983 of the Federal Civil Rights Statute. And again, we brought a common law claim of battery. And basically the allegation was that Officer Ruby shot and killed our client. As Landon said, he assassinated her. I say he shot her with a sniper round. So yeah, he assassinated her. And there was no objectively reasonable basis for him to do so. Korryn Gaines was a very bubbly, effervescent, loving mother who doted over her children, very attentive to her children, was a wonderful daughter, a fiance, single mother of two, about to get married, homeowner. She went to Morgan State for a little while, graduated from City College, but she was stricken with some mental health issues that went unaddressed for a long time. And although on the outside she was a functioning person, she wasn't like manic all the time, but she did have bouts of depression. She would cry for no reason at all and didn't understand the reasons why. She would remove herself and isolate herself from her family and friends. She was very distrusting. She was irritable. She had all the symptoms that you would expect to see from someone suffering from a mental health issues, whether it's PTSD, bipolar, or even some elements of schizophrenia. And it arose from her being molested as a child between the ages of 4 to 7 years old. She was molested by two close family friends and a cousin. The two close family friends were actually women and the cousin was a man. And this occurred between ages of 4 to 7 years old. In fact, the man is now, he was convicted and incarcerated for molesting other women, and he's on the sex abuse registry in New York. Nevertheless, these things kind of shaped her background. And from there, as you heard in the news, she was stricken with lead paint poisoning in her teenage years. And she battled a lot of these things. With the lead paint, she was able to secure a settlement, a 6-figure settlement that was really going to do well by her and her family, until she had this other cousin who swindled her out of all her money on some risky or even far worse than risky, but just investments that did not benefit Korryn at all. And she lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in that. So that sent her in a tailspin. And then from that point, her boyfriend was removed from the community on a parole retake violation just before they were about to have Carson Courtney, Korryn's second child. So Korryn wasn't even there for the birth of the child, and she worked feverishly to get Korryn released from prison, and she was successful in doing so, but it took about 9 months for that to happen. So she's a single mom. She's responsible for her children. When they wake up in the morning, she's got to feed them. She's got to take them to school. She's got to pick them up. She's got to, make sure they're bathed, make sure they're nurtured, make sure they're getting their education. And you got to do it every day. And so as a 23-year-old mother, I mean, these are daunting responsibilities. And, I always say that people who suffer from mental health are not weak people. In fact, the reason why they suffer is because they've been strong for far too long. Korryn Gaines had been strong for far too long, suffering from her mental health issues and not getting the appropriate treatment for it. Although she did voluntarily seek some treatment for it, there was a time also within the last couple of years of her life that she had to be committed to a hospital because of her mental health issues. And with everything else that was taking place in her life just taking over, and the drugs that she was taking wasn't making her feel like she felt like she was supposed to, so she stopped taking them. And anything could trigger it. If you know anything about mental health, anything can trigger it. And so on this day in question, August 1st of 2016, there was a knock at a door. And the interesting thing about this knock at the door, and Landon may jump in whenever you feel the need, police officers were on polar sides of her door. That is, one officer was on the hinge side of the door, the other officer was on the knob side of the door. This in the early morning when they were there to execute a warrant. They never stated their business for being there. And when Korryn would go to look out of the peephole, she couldn't see anybody because they were on each polar sides of the door. So she went back, and they thought that was the end of it. But the police continued to knock, and then they even said, "Open up, police." Well, just because police are knocking at your door and they're not identifying themselves, I mean, you look out the door and you don't see anybody, but you hear somebody knocking at your door talking about "open up, police." You're not going to open the door, because we've all heard of people impersonate police officers, attacking other people. And it was just so bizarre, the behavior of these police officers. And what we learned through the testimony and trial is that they didn't have their badges on, or their badges were not visible. And so when they went and got the key to open her door, she went and got her shotgun. And when they kicked in the door and entered the apartment, she had her shotgun pointed at them. These were two white guys. In fact, she only saw one. The other white guy wasn't even visible. These were two white guys. She only saw one, and that one didn't have his badge visible. And so she pointed her shotgun at him and told him to get out. And that's what they did. So one of the things that was interesting in trial is that the officer who did that, Alan Griffin, began to sob in court that he had a shotgun pulled over. And this 30-year veteran, big time, 200 some odd pound police officer is sobbing in court because he had a shotgun pointed at him because he kicked in somebody's door without identifying himself as a police officer or stating the purpose of his business. So all those things were rolled up into one, and that's what started the snowball effect of everything that occurred subsequently. And so when he exited the apartment unit, he contacted the district, who contacted SWAT, and SWAT came down. And SWAT came down with crushing force. They brought in 11 tactical officers. Snipers were at every window in her home. An armored personnel carrier was parked outside of her patio. Everybody in the vestibule area was under the cover, where the vestibule area was encased by brick. So they had brick cover. They had their sophisticated body armor, which included rifle plates that were known to stop shotgun blasts. And so basically it was a waiting game. You wait a person out in a barricade situation such as that. You just wait them out. It's a single mother in the apartment with her children. She never fired any weapons. She never advanced on the officers in any way. She's just sitting there, and she's afraid now because maybe after pointing the gun, things probably have gone too far, and because he did that, she's had.
I think we lost you, Wyndal.
Is he still there?
Yeah, I still see his image, but he's frozen.
Yeah, I'll continue. And he talked about them coming down with crushing force. I think one of the things that was very important that I was able to get out on cross-examination was just basically the gentleman's weight. And I kind of made I knew it was going to get objected to in regards to so you would figure you're more than Ray Lewis in his playing days. It got objected and sustained, but I did get out there. He was 275 pounds. And Jay definitely mentioned how he was crying and sobbing. We had a lot of that, just for the record. And I'll let Jay elaborate more on how we had Ruby on his knees crying in front of the jury, man. And we took that home, baby. But
Landon, we stepped over him, didn't we? We stepped up. We stepped over him because we had to go get the bench for the side, but we stepped over that stool, and he still stayed down there on the floor. But that's
I'm gonna say we're gonna get to that later. But just know, Anson, in regards to this, as a young attorney in the room, I was able to see a battle from somebody in their prime, and then somebody who, and I don't want to say this about Ken the wrong way. Hope it doesn't take this wrong way, but you got Jay Wyndal in his prime, and then you got somebody who I would consider one of the gladiators of the arena for years. The age that Jay Wyndal is now, Ken Ravenel was pretty much running the federal courts, and I mean, he was the man. And to see him, kind of like going out, and we're in Baltimore, kind of like Ray Lewis on his last run, man, it was something special. And I had to kind of learn to pick and choose my spots the entire trial, because a lot of times they were like, young fella, like, come here, what you about to say? And I think towards the end of it, I was able to show some stripes. And one of the questions was getting Griffin. And I think I did a very good job of just exposing, because he was crying, he was emotional. And one of the questions I asked him was, but on that day you didn't let emotion get the best of you, resorted to your training. And he said, yes, he resorted to his training. And that questioning of Griffin within itself relayed to everybody else. Everybody in that room that came to testify, except for Ruby, resorted to their training. And
the training told them to seek cover.
Jay, you have an echo. You gotta turn down one of them.
You there, Jay?
How about now?
Well, until he gets back on, I believe he was going to the training was that cover. Are you back, Jay?
Let me try to refresh again.
There you go. Refresh again. Oh, there's still an echo.
Are you back? Okay. So basically, he was trying to go into their training was their cover. And I want him to go into more detail, but basically during their statements, depositions, they were behind brick wall. And Jay, if you're there, you can kind of elaborate if you want. I haven't gone into too deep in regards to the positioning and the brick wall and how they all knew they were safe, but in trial they started, changing, what they were saying. You there, Jay?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, that's good. Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, good.
Okay, so I wanted to just back up real quick. Let's see. Okay, there's no echo now. Yeah, so I wanted to back up and just ask you all, why were the police there to begin with? Why did they come to Korryn Gaines' house?
So they came to execute an FTA warrant for Korryn Gaines for missing her court date for traffic violations and related offenses. And for Kareem Courtney, they said because he had an assault warrant that they needed to serve upon him for domestic violence against none other than Korryn Gaines. And the irony of it all is that police claimed that they were there to arrest Kareem Courtney for domestic violence, and they end up pumping Korryn with 4 rounds of a .223 bullet from their assault rifle. And it's just crazy. It's just crazy.
Yeah, Jay, you may have there's an echo. Do you have 2 windows open?
I'm gonna go out and come back in and see what happens.
Yeah, I had to do the same thing, Jay. So yeah, they were there for and this is what the issue. They only had an arrest warrant. They didn't have a search warrant. And Jay can talk about it more. So they had another warrant for a Kareem Courtney, in which they were trying to claim they were trying to execute that. And I believe the judge got it wrong in regards to whether their entry was legal. However, on the jury instructions, we had to, stipulate because of in a previous criminal trial, a former judge stated that the entry was legal. However, the entry was legal for another individual, not for Korryn Gaines. And Jay, you there?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so I can hear you. So what I went into with regards to, they were there for, you said they were there for Korryn to execute a bench warrant, but they were able to say that the entry into her home was legal because of a former criminal case in which we believe that Judge Norman was wrong in his ruling and allowing that to be considered a legal entry because they didn't actually have a search warrant. With that being said, I mean, I think we painted a great picture. I'm not too sure who the assistant was or the individual that was in court. But, Jay was able to get some insight because we did have 6 women and, that warrant, no woman cares about the warrant. At the end of the day, women understand that she was in a sundress. She was nursing. She's a woman, and you guys are all men. You got no one's understanding what it's like being a woman. And Jay came to me and was like, look, we got to change our strategy in the middle of trial. I want to say like day 5, Jay came to me and was like, we got to stop coming at it like, we're men. Jay, you can leverage on that, Jay. I mean, that's good.
I think I still got consideration. I don't know.
No, I can hear you.
Yeah, so when someone is talking, like the people who aren't talking should have their computers on mute, so that way we won't get an echo.
So you got yours on mute? Does Landon have his on mute? So can you hear me? But I can't hear you, so maybe you need to take yours off of mute. Anson.
Yeah, I can hear you. I was on mute, so we won't.
So yeah, so we needed to kind of we learned early on after talking to one of my paralegals that we were focusing too much on the men. Like everybody was concerned about the safety and protection of these men, these trained officers who had assault rifles and body armor, and we weren't focusing enough on the women. And so I started changing my focus to the women and children. What was Korryn Gaines thinking? What was she going through? And things of that nature. So I kind of shared that with Landon. I said, Landon, you focusing on the men and safety of the men, but these women don't care about the men. These men put themselves in these positions. These are dangerous jobs, and these men know that going into it. So we need to start focusing on the woman and what does this case look like from her perspective. And so that's what I endeavored to do in the case, and I think Landon kind of followed suit with that, and that kind of brought things into a great focus because Kenny was dealing with the safety issues in the men, and I was dealing with the women and children issues, and Landon was dealing with the safety and women and children issues that we missed or that we needed to either reiterate or fortify. So it worked out fine. It worked out great.
Okay, so I had one other follow-up question. So we know that Korryn Gaines, was killed in this incident. Can you talk about her son, like what happened to her son? And from what I understand, when this incident first started to take place, her boyfriend and her younger daughter was in the premises as well. What happened to them, and why did they take the course of action that they took?
Well, when the police burst in the door, that triggered something in Korryn's head. Like, that was offensive. And the reason why it triggered something in her head, because her home had been recently burglarized maybe a year before. And that's when she went out and purchased a weapon in the first place, because her home was burglarized a year before. And I truly believe that that's what triggered her episode, her psychotic or manic episode, because she was completely detached from reality at that point. And Courtney was not. It's like, okay, you say we got these misdemeanor warrants, we go in, we self-surrender, take them in, we'll be out later on in the evening, no big deal. But Korryn, she just wasn't him. She wasn't going back, she wasn't going to jail. She believed that the last time she was in police custody, and not she believed, but the last time that she was in police custody, she had a miscarriage of twins that she and Korryn had been developing together. She was pregnant and she had a miscarriage, and she experienced some really cruel and inhumane treatment at that time. So she was just, in her mind, she wasn't going back to jail. She was afraid of police. She was afraid that if she walked out of that door, that they would shoot her. And so she was holding on to, clinging to dear life. And Kareem, who had his wits about him, he's like, well, let me get my daughter and get Cody, and I'm gonna take them out of here, because you're not thinking like you should be. What you're doing is not really rational. And so he's got his hands up as he's walking out of the door, and he's kind of shuffling his daughter in between his legs, and he's got Cody holding on to him. And in his mind, he's like, I really want to pick up my daughter, but if I make a move, they might start shooting. And he's like, don't shoot, I got kids here. We got kids in here. So he's able to shuffle his daughter out in front of him, but Cody's holding on to his pant leg. And then when Cody sees the police officers and it's getting closer to him, Cody snatches away from Kareem and runs back to his mother. So that's how he remained. But Kareem was able to get his daughter out of there. And I truly believe in his act. People criticized him for what he did, but at the end of the day, with the way Korryn was behaving and him knowing her mental instabilities, he had to do what was best for his daughter and himself, because the way Korryn was going, and they'd have no problem whatsoever just filling him up full of bullets, and that would have been the end of it, like no problem whatsoever. So he's thinking, okay, if I'm not here for my daughter and you're not here for our daughter, and your son, like, what's left? And so that's why he self-surrendered, because things was getting crazy. But Korryn, she was paralyzed by her own fear and her own psychosis, and that's how she remained in the unit. And her son's just devoted to mothers. You know how sons are, especially at that age. They just, they're not going to separate from their mother, not willingly anyway, especially when she appears to be in distress. So he's trying to be there for and to protect his mother, and that's why he remained, I truly believe.
And I'll just, I guess I'll elaborate as well more. I think the first 4 or 5 days, we were really trying to get over, or trying to, I guess, set up there was a point in trial where we were trying to get out all the issues in regards to her mental health, okay? Judge Norman would only allow us to get certain things in. So you're getting a lot of information that the jurors, we wanted to give to the jurors, but they didn't have, or they just wouldn't be allowed in, okay? And so maybe on day 4 or 5, we were focusing on a lot of her mental health, but it was one point we had the mom on the stand, and I believe there were some objections that were sustained to, because if I'm correct here, I don't think we got in the molestation, Jay.
No. And what we were able to show, we were not able to get that in. But what we were able to get in was that there was a traumatic event that was so explosive. It caused Korryn's mother to have a stroke. I mean, so
now
you can draw from it what you want, because we mentioned molestation in the opening argument, and even though the judge tried to shut us down, we were able to say that she shared with her mother a traumatic event that caused her to have a stroke. So people can draw the inference as to what it was. And so that, you know, the judge was being, at times, his rulings, they didn't favor us. Let me just say that. And prevented us from getting out a lot of information that the case didn't really rise and fall off of the information coming in, but it was just information to help you better understand Korryn and why she engaged in the behavior that she did. And even if it doesn't provide an adequate excuse, it definitely provided an explanation as to what was in her mind and what she was going through at the time.
Yeah, and what I'll add is that around that time frame is when, you know, Jay had we went the course of focusing on the women. So instead of looking at it from a police perspective of, you know, well, what are the excuses for her having a gun? We started going towards, if you're in fear as a woman and you have a legal gun in your house and you've never had any criminal history, you know, when two men come into your house, what are you going to do? And there was a real kind of sad moment that I think the jury kind of connected with in regards to, you know, I said what's sad here is the fact that she thought the warrant was fraudulent. So when you think the warrant is fraudulent, like anybody else, what you're going to do? She asked to speak to a supervisor. She asked to have a business card. And I think out of the 12, 13 officers that got on the stand, I think there were 2 that told the truth the entire time, maybe 3. I believe one was Officer Griffin, and he said, "Hey, there was no way for me to give her my phone or card. I even asked her if she had a frisbee."
Dow.
Okay, that was Dow.
Mm-hmm.
So I even asked if she had a frisbee, and you know, you could tell it was she was reaching out trying to get information, and that there was no information to get information to her. And then you go from fraudulent warrant to, and you know, Jay did a great job of explaining the scene of, and Jay, you can let me know if I'm wrong. He explained the scene of, you know, you had the entry team, 8 people inside, and you had this big AP truck fully armored outside our window, and then you had counter snipers and tons of police cars. Now on Jay's closing, he explained all that, and now you have these 6 women in the jury box who have bad days. You know, as a man, I've never experienced having been, you know, having a menstrual cycle. I've never experienced that. Only thing I know is that, you know, it's sometimes, you know, my mom, my sister, my family members, they may have bad days during that time. But I think his paralegal did a great job of telling us to, you know, y'all need to stop worrying about the men's safety and start worrying about what the women think, because those women don't care about those police officers in tactical gear. They don't care about those police officers behind walls. They care about a mother and what a mother will do for her children. So, I mean, I think, and you can just tell the difference in the trial. I think me and Jay kind of had it out on day 5, because I'm like, Jay, I'm not confident, man. It's 50-50. I'll be honest with you. And then he was like, you know, I don't take a case like I can win it.
You're offending me.
I was like 50, man, you know how much money you
crazy.
Like, you know how much money we spent. You know, I'm the young lawyer. I probably only my side. I think we put up like $5 to $7 grand on my end. You know how much money we spent. I ain't gonna take a case unless I know I'm gonna win it, man. And then, you know, I'm telling the truth. And he's like, no, we gotta change our route this way. And I'm telling you, once I hit him with I don't think it's looking ugly, man. We changed which way we were going in regards to
it. Never looked ugly.
See, that's what I'll say is this. What I'll say is this, and I've always been on. He knows I've been honest. What I say is this: when he told me to look at the jurors, not from the perspective of, you know, hey, this is what, stop thinking like you're thinking, because I'm thinking as a man. I'm thinking as, you know, someone who doesn't have children. once Jay put the bug in my ear of, you know, what would your mother do for you? You know, I started thinking of the anxiety my mom has with me just walking out of the house. You know, I lost my license when I got back from my trip, and she, go get your license. I don't want you, you know, since like that type of anxiety. I remember her face when Trayvon Martin happened. I remember when Mike Brown happened. You know, I'm studying for the bar exam. Like, I've started remembering these things, and that kind of emotion, you know, that kind of emotion started coming out in trial and questioning. And I really believe, because Ken Ravenel was very thorough and methodical in getting them to show that they were lying on the stand and changing their testimony. But in regards to the emotion, you know, I think Jay Wyndal really changed course of the jury in regards to the emotion. And then for myself, I think I connected to the jury in regards to I was as young, or I can relate to, they can relate to the youth and the youthfulness of, you know, their mothers on their jury. They know that they can see that I was the youngest person, youngest attorney at that bench, you know, by a couple years, you know, only a couple, Jay. And but you know, I think the changing of the guard of you know, just, and that's what it showed me too. It showed me that if you're in a battle, you know, just because you get hit once or twice doesn't mean that, you know, the course of the trial can change, you know. And Jay Wyndal, you know, he's been in probably 100 more trials or 200 more trials I've been in. But I will say that, you know, being in this 2-3 week long trial, I've seen the trial go, you know, the ebbs and flows. And I've seen them have witnesses that were terrible. I've seen us have witnesses that weren't the best. And I mean, we totally changed the trajectory of not only just in Baltimore, but I think we changed the trajectory in the United States, man. And,
yeah, so I wanted to follow up with so if you can go into mute when you're not thinking, that help. There's an echo, so everybody go into mute right now since you're not speaking. So the question that I wanted to have was this: you know, what happened to Cody? Can you all talk about what happened to him during this incident? And then also, I want you all to provide like key moments in this trial, like key testimony that really made the difference in this case.
So what happened to Cody? Cody was shot. The initial bullet, or the first shot that struck Korryn in the back, traveled through her left lung, through her thoracic spine, or her T-spine, that's chest level spine, from the back, through her right lung, through her right arm, came out of her right arm, hit the refrigerator, ricocheted off the refrigerator, and struck and embedded into Cody's cheek. And then there was a 30-second pause, and Ruby stormed the apartment unit. Korryn is drowning in her own blood at this time, just barely holding on. He alleged that Korryn was able to rack her gun twice and fire it twice. But the medical examiner basically said that the injuries that she sustained from the first shot were destabilizing, demobilizing, and paralyzing. So she wouldn't have been able to do that, but that was his excuse. And so when he saw her in the kitchen, he just emptied 3 more rounds in it, just cold and callous. He had his gun at a downward slope, as they said, and just fired 3 rounds and hit Cody again. Cody was right there, and he knew Cody was near his mom at the time he took the first shot. And when he went into the kitchen and he saw his mother, you know, holding on to what slither of life she had left, he finished her. And Cody was right there, and he had no problems taking those shots. He was completely reckless. It was callous. In my opinion, it was malicious and inhumane. I believe, like I said in my interviews, it was sick, it was sadistic, it was misogynistic, and the guy was just pure evil. He's a pure, evil, sick, sadistic killer cop who just does not need to be wearing a badge. So I think some of the highlighted testimony is the fact that we were able to point out through their own expert that in order for Korryn Gaines to be pointing her weapon at the hinge side of the door, which was the reason which was the reason Ruby took his shot, he claimed that Korryn was pointing her weapon towards the hinge side team. And the hinge side of the door, basically, you know, a door has a hinge to it. It has a hinge. There's a hinge side and there's a knob side where the knob is, and then there's the hinge side where the hinge is. So there was an officer on the outside of Korryn Gaines' front door behind the cover of brick on the hinge side, which is basically the right side of the door. Ruby was on the knob side, which was basically the left side of the door from Korryn's point of view. And from her position, she couldn't even see the hinge side of the door. Ruby said that she raised her weapon to a firing position, and the only thing he could see was her braids in the barrel of the gun. Well, his expert said that in order for that weapon to be pointing towards the hinge side of the door or towards Ruby, you'd have to see more than her braids in the barrel. Her braids were 25 inches long nonetheless, but you'd have to see her hands. So it's not like you can take that weapon and point it around the corner of a wall like that without seeing her hands. And the fact that Ruby never saw any hands, he never saw her head. In fact, he shot through drywall in an area where he believed that her head would be. And I'd argue that he believed where the back of her head would be because he shot her in the back. And so their own expert debunked the theory that she was pointing her weapon at any of these officers. And then when you couple that with the fact that there was no gunshot residue on her arms, her forearms, and they didn't test her hands.
That was big, Jay. Yeah, that was big.
Yeah, they didn't test the hands. And this was a pistol grip Mossberg shotgun. And, you know, the rounds, shotgun rounds, contain more gunpowder than regular rounds, you know, so there's going to be more gunshot residue if she fired that weapon. And the autopsy report indicated that there was no gunshot residue on her arms. And he claimed that she was holding a gun around the corner. Well, if he had fired that weapon, the shell casings would have emitted in the dining room area of the apartment. And they claim they located the shell casings under her body, under her thighs. So if you look at the shot, if you look at the defect in the wall where they claim she took a shot, there's no way in heck that the shell casings would be under her body when her body was laid out inside of the kitchen. In addition to that, there were 3 defects in the wall that were consistent with shotgun rounds, but only 2 rounds they alleged she fired off. So where did this 3rd defect in the wall that's consistent with a shotgun round come from? They didn't recover any shotgun pellets. And so the rounds that she fired carried 9 pellets apiece because they were 00 buckshot rounds. They carried 9 pellets. They didn't recover any of them.
None of them. None.
And so if you couple that with the fact that their own experts said you'd have to see her hands and all of this evidence that we recounted that was just missing, you come to the conclusion that she never fired that weapon in the first place, that they fired that weapon as a cover-up to the misconduct of Royce Ruby. And so that's what I truly believe. Now, nobody came out and admitted that, but that's just my surmise from the evidence, from her devastating injuries, her devastating and paralyzing injuries. She wouldn't have had the strength. If a bullet goes through your spine, you don't have the strength to do all this. You are collapsing. You are going down. And so for Ruby to say that she was turning on him, that was completely implausible. So that's that issue. So that was a highlight in the trial. Other highlights were the fact that all the officers, you know, just the lying about anything. They lied when the truth would do. You know what I mean? They just lied about stuff that they really didn't have to lie about. But the one thing that they were consistent about was that when they were in the vestibule in that hallway, everyone felt safe. Like no one felt threatened by Korryn if she was to fire a shotgun blast, and they already had a plan of what to do in the event she fired a weapon. So everyone felt safe. In fact, it was a moment during the standoff where Korryn was left unattended for about 20 minutes. You know, nobody was watching her, and she remained in her same position. And so if you're so threatened by this woman who's handling this shotgun, why would you not watch her and place everyone in that hallway in danger if she posed that type of imminent threat to you? And so even if you look at that ominous photograph with the officer that's peeping inside of her doorway with his gun at a low ready position, low ready is not a position you take when you're in imminent threat of serious injury or death, either of yourself or your comrade. So there was never an instance that I believe, and then their own supervisor said that she never pointed a weapon at their tactical officers. So there was never an instance where I believe that any of these officers were threatened by any of her behavior or her conduct. So I thought that was a turning point. What else, Landon? What else?
I'll go. So you already talked about the officers. I think their credibility was just shot.
Right.
And Ravenall was very meticulous in going through his deposition. I mean, we all were, but he just went first. And I don't think there was one officer in regards to whether they were safe or cover that we didn't go to the depositions on. And I mean, at least 3 or 4 times. So almost every one of the officers that were a part of the tactical team had no credibility with the actual jury. Jay, I believe it was you that got out in regards to the key. Now I use this a lot on my opening, and on my closing, and I really brought it home on the actual on the rebuttal. But Jay brought it out, and he touched on it on his closing as well in regards to how much money they paid Key. And it was like they basically paid for a scenario to cover this up that basically just didn't make sense. And they paid, I believe, him close to $30,000. I know it was over $29,000 to come in and testify. And he came and testified after hearing everyone else's testimony, because in the state of Maryland, experts don't have to be sequestered from the courtroom. Or in layman terms, if you're a witness, if you're an expert witness, you get to stay in the courtroom and listen to everybody else's testimony. So in their closing statement, they paid this guy $30,000. And they really mentioned his name. They said his name, but they mentioned him and saying that, and the expert and the medical examiner, said the bullet trajectory went a certain way. This man was on the stand for half a day. You barely mentioned his name, and you dollars. What are you there for? And I brought that home on rebuttal. How do you pay this guy this amount of money and don't bring him up one time? I think we need to give a lot of credit, and it's not credit in regards to he didn't do anything that he was supposed to do, but and this is where, and some witnesses were worse than others. I don't think we had a bad witness. It's just that some witnesses were better than others. Like Powers, his credibility on that stand, the fact that he talked about, I'm an FBI agent. I've, went after and had to safely apprehend FBI top 10 most wanted, people on the top 10 most wanted list in the FBI. I've been undercover in some of the worst communities, drug infested with crime, murder, everything else with the FBI. I've lectured. I'm a professor. I got my degree from American University, I believe he said. And then, I've lectured at Ivy League schools like Yale and Harvard. Like, those things worked. He also talked about de-escalation and how de-escalation is in the federal policies. They talk about, they train on it. However, there's no policy in Baltimore County with de-escalation being a part of their policy. So it's a scenario where, and I could tell when he said that it wasn't a part of Baltimore County policy. See, I'm the third counsel. So I get a little bit, and I was closest to the jury. So, you know, of course, when Ken is preparing, you know, I'm listening, but I don't have to be as, I'm not going next. Okay. Jay is going next. So I can kind of look at the jury when a little bit more than they can when things was being said. And when he said de-escalation is something we teach on a federal level, but they don't, it's not a part of their policy in Baltimore County, I think that was major. I already talked about how Jay got out the amount of money. What else is big? Oh, I think he walked himself into something big. The jury had no idea about her Facebook via motions, and we tried to sneak it in here there. However, he walked himself into saying he knew, he was under the impression that she was recording him the whole time. I'm not too sure, you know, he walked himself into it. He stated, well, she had her hand on the gun and she had her phone. And when she didn't have her phone, you know, Cody had her phone. And I asked him, you know, what were you under the impression that she was doing with her phone? And he said, I was under the impression that she was recording me. And then when she wasn't recording me, she would have Cody recording me. I thought that was huge. I thought that was, you know, and in my closing, I talked about how basically he knew the entire day that he was being recorded. And as soon as she walked in the kitchen with Cody, no longer Cody wasn't recording him. She wasn't recorded. And he backed up, got a better shot, because something Jay talked about on his closing. And a lot of times when you go after somebody, you can pick that he's a right-handed shot. So nobody, the whole trial, talked about how he was a right-handed shot until closing. But Jay showed how his gun, if he's a right-handed shot, is pointing, is not even in low ready, pointing towards Korryn. So he's sitting there in no danger at all. And, you know, I think one thing I think we touched upon on closing, Jay, and you can go back and let me know if I'm wrong or not. I think it was big that they gave 2 orders the entire day. It was don't shoot unless she charges or advances. The entire time they were saying, well, you know, I don't know why our major told us that. Mind you, they're trying to say that the person in charge shouldn't have told them that, because, you know, if somebody has a knife, they can charge. Somebody has a gun, you know, they can just shoot us. Okay. But their major told their whoever was in charge, I believe, I don't know if it was Artisan or Stephan or Wilson at that time, do not shoot unless she charges or advances. Korryn did not charge. She did not advance. She got up. She walked backwards to the kitchen. And I think the major thing was, at the end of the day, she was shot in the back. If Officer Griffin, when he first walked in, would have shot her and not resorted to training, I don't think, you know, the fact that it was 6 hours, she never shot her gun. She was waiting for one of her family members. And he was being recorded. I think that was big. And the orders were ridiculous. I mean, Jay, I mean, you can elaborate to answer, but they said they were relaxing right next door with a baby. Not crazy about that?
Yeah, those were the facts of the case. Yeah. So, you know, those are the facts that we uncovered during the depositions and everything. So it wasn't anything new, though. We definitely.
Yeah, Landon, I was saying you got to put yours on mute while Jay is talking. There was an echo. Okay,
so those were the facts that were brought out in the depositions that we were able to produce again during the trial. That they were there, that, you know, they were chilling in the next man's apartment, drilling holes in his wall and threatening to blow up the wall if they needed to enter into Korryn Gaines' apartment. But no one was afraid of Korryn, and I don't think anybody believed any of that. And you got all these men with all this sophisticated body armor and all this weaponry, and you got Korryn Gaines, who's scared to death for what could possibly happen to her and her son, with a shotgun and again, a pink sundress. I mean, there's no match. She's outmanned, outnumbered, outgunned, outmatched, outsmarted, because these are all technical officers. If you put all their experience together, it's probably 100 years of tactical training. I said technical, I meant tactical officers. If you put all the experience together, it's probably 100 years of tactical training that they had. And Korryn was just, she was boxed in. Like, there's nothing for her to do except, you know, eventually give up. And in a matter of time, she would have given up. Now, what makes this thing so egregious as to what Ruby did is that they had already called in a new set of tactical officers, because Ruby and those had been out there for 6 hours, and fatigue does set in when you're in that type of situation. I mean, the tactical gear weighs about 50 pounds, and it's hot. They turned off the power, so they had called refreshment trucks in to provide water and refreshments to the officers. I mean, it was almost like a party down that joint, to be honest with you. I mean, they had everything that they needed to deal with this situation for the long haul. And Ruby took it upon himself. He worked a 6 to 2 shift. He took it upon himself around 3, I guess it would have been around 3:25, 3:26, to shoot her. And it was completely unnecessary and objectively unreasonable. And in my opinion, it was malicious. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have a couple of follow-up questions. The sister in the chat room asked some good questions, and I want to echo those questions. The first thing she asked was there a mobile crisis team at the scene? And if not, why not? Were there any social workers at the scene?
Well,
and also she mentioned this issue about about Cody running away during this incident. Do you know if Cody was running away from the officer, or do you all have any information about that at the time of the shooting?
Cody was running away when the officer came in and started blasting on his mother. The mobile crisis team, I'm kind of taking notes so I can keep up with your question. Baltimore County has a mobile crisis team, and they were supposed to be used for situations such as this, but they were not relied upon very much. They alleged that they spoke to a psychologist to assist them with the negotiations, but she didn't provide any information. She wasn't at the scene. She was in a command post that was down at a church around the corner from where Korryn was. But either way, the mobile crisis team was not called in, and it was not utilized to its abilities. And I think they had a lot of options. The parents were there, family was there. There were a lot of people who could have talked Korryn, you know, out of her situation. Even though she was having an episode, she would have listened to her father, she would have listened to her mother, she would have listened to some of her cousins who she was very close with, because they come from a big family, and everybody was concerned that these police officers were just bloodlusting for her. Like, they had it in for her. And one can imagine it's because of that traffic incident in March of 2016, but it was a bloodlust for Korryn Gaines, and it's like she had a bounty on her. And Ruby was the one to take her out. He was the one who at some point made up in his mind that he's tired of her not surrendering, not listening to authority. Basically, she was in violation of contempt of cop, and he killed her for contempt of cop because he wasn't, in his opinion, she wasn't respecting his authority as an officer or those who were trying to help get her out of that unit. And he grew impatient and frustrated, and he fired a shot. And that was the reason. He didn't fire it because of fear. He fired it because of frustration.
Now, did the police offer any explanation as to why they did not involve the family into the situation, you know, use them to try to negotiate with her? And if you were in charge of the police that day, what would you have instructed the police to do?
The first question, did the police provide an explanation as to why, would you say, did they provide an explanation as to why what?
As to why they didn't allow the relatives to try to negotiate with her.
The explanation, which makes, in their mind, it seems to make sense, but it's just something, it's just an excuse. In their minds, they say, well, when you have barricade situations, if people talk to their parents or loved ones, they can say goodbye and then kill themselves. And so that's their excuse, is that if we allowed her to talk or have conversation with the mothers, you know, she'll say, oh, Mom, you know, I just want to tell you I love you very much, and please forgive me for what I'm about to do. I'm going to kill myself. And then they do it. And so that was their excuse for not doing it. But it was a lame excuse, because Korryn never suggested in any way that she was suicidal. And they never had any information that she was suicidal. Her mother was a psych nurse. All of these resources were available to them, and they could have utilized them. But it was their own arrogance. It's their own egos and arrogance. And their belief that this was some kind of drill as opposed to real life. It was almost like they were playing a game of Call of Duty or something. This was a drill to them. It wasn't real life. They didn't treat her like a real life situation, like she was a human being, despite having all these resources that could have lended itself to a better outcome. It was a bloodlust. That's what I really think it was.
And let me make sure I'm clear here in regards to, I guess, my opinion in regards to all the officers. I agree with what Jay is saying in regards to Ruby. I truly believe every other officer on that site heard the instructions, heard the orders, it out. And they knew Tom was on their side. And there's the evidence showed that once he took the shot. Huh?
I agree.
Yeah. And I think there was two things. Once he took the shot, there was a time, it was a pause. They said it was approximately 30 seconds, which he took the first shot, which killed her. Okay. Then they had to make an assessment. They had to wait about 30 seconds before they entered. I believe that he took the shot with no one knowing. See, everybody was relaxing next door. They were talking it through. They knew there was time. Tom was on their side. They knew they had to wait it out. He took the shot. And then they had to come together with this tactical entry approach. And the fact that they all entered as well, he took the first shot and then he took the last three. Those last three, in my opinion, and I think Jay stated it, and I believe the jury ate it up, is that those were not only kill shots, those were silencing shots. Like, I don't want you to say, even if this was a headshot, it looks like you have some life left. I want to finish you so that just in case they revive you, no one will know your side of the story. And, actually in the close, I actually, walked over to the, other officers and I thanked them. I pointed to all of them and, let them know that, not one person shot that's sitting behind Ruby. And it was 30 officers there. Now, and I believe that's how many officers were basically on the entire scene, blocking everything off, but there was this like main 11 that Jay talked about. And all these officers were there in support because they are a band of brothers. I mean, them officers being a band of brothers, that blue line is something that, you respect. But when an officer goes over that blue line and starts infringing on rights and killing individuals, I mean, I'm just happy that we're the ones that took this case to trial. I know Baltimore County wish they would have settled. And not only Baltimore County, I know every police district in the country wish they would have settled so all this wouldn't get out. Because, I think the one thing we got rid of here, and I talked about it in my opening, is we got rid of what we call the perfect victim. Okay. If somebody came and broke in here into my law office and shot me, of course, people even in the black community, even in the white community would feel sympathy and sorrow. Oh, Howard Law grad, Morgan State grad, great young lawyer. But, if I'm, if I work at, a regular, work a regular minimum wage job and, I got a small, a possession record of marijuana or something that, means nothing in today's time where we're probably going to have legal marijuana in the next 4 or 5 years. I know we're having it in Maryland at this point and other states throughout the country. But, we have an individual that had a gun that was pointed. I want to make sure this is clear. Testimony got out that it was laying across her lap, that the entire time it was only pointed, but it was never aimed or in firing position. Okay. That's what their testimony said. But we got rid of the perfect victim. I think, mothers and fathers with kids with autism, they can know that I believe in the next 2 to 3 years, they're going to have de-escalation. Mothers who have, parents and individuals with mental health. I believe there's a case up in New York with the mentally ill lady with a bat that I believe Black Lives Matter in New York is all over. So this whole perfect victim thing, man. And we saw it happening with Trayvon Martin, where as soon as that whole situation happened, they had him with golds in his mouth and, you know, and tried to taint his innocence as a child. And even with Tamir Rice, 13-year-old, taint his innocence as a child. And with this case, we not only saw, you know, quote unquote racist individuals talking about Korryn, we saw people in our own community trying to say, well, she deserved it because she had a gun. She deserved it because she wouldn't give up. And not really understanding the anxiety we have in this country with, you know, police brutality. And I believe everybody on this trial, from Ken to Jay, Hirschfield, myself, I believe the mothers and people of color out there, their anxiety level when it get pulled over by police officers should be lowered, as well as we're gonna have some real change. We're gonna have some real change, and for that, I'm proud. For that, you know, man, you know, Anson, you know, I don't know if people know, you know, Anson gave me some tips to pass the bar exam, you know, and when I was working for the NAACP. So this is it's full circle, man. And I like to thank Jay. Eventually I shook Ken's hand. I didn't really get a chance to shake Jay's hand because, you know, that's like my big brother. So I didn't feel the need to really shake Jay's hand, but that's like my big brother. He introduced me to my mentor, you know, he saw me catching the train every day back and forth, but I shook Ken's hand. And I mean, to see, like I said, I believe Jay is in his prime right now. I think Ken is, you know, he's that old, not old, I don't want to get in trouble now. He's the seasoned veteran, you know, that you can just, I mean, he was just walking them down, you know, and I'm just like a young wolf, man. I'm grabbing at everything. And these guys definitely helped me along. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, so one question I wanted to touch on is the Facebook issue. So if you all could go into mute real quick.
Jay, I'm leaving it alone. That's all you.
All right, so I wanted to talk about that Facebook issue, the fact that they blocked her Facebook, stopped her from streaming. What is the significance of that? How does that play into the case as well?
Well, Facebook was her only protection. Even though she was armed with a shotgun, that couldn't protect her. The only thing that could protect her was her ability to record and have memorialized her experience. That was her sole protection. That was her eyewitness. That was the lens of the events from the world view, or to the world, you know what I mean? And when they deactivated that, they knew what they were doing, because that was the recording of what was taking place, and which is what is so to me so devastating and so egregious is that within 2 minutes, a minute and 30 some seconds of them deactivating her account, she shot and killed. And you know, the defense wanted you to believe that was a mere coincidence and had nothing to do with the case. But if you look at the temporal proximity of when the deactivation took place, that's more than a coincidence. And it's definitely circumstantial evidence of Ruby's intent. He was looking for the perfect opportunity to take a shot and put her out of her misery, because he had grown frustrated. She hasn't surrendered. It's been 6 hours. It's hot. He's got on all this equipment. The gun itself that Ruby was carrying weighed 8 pounds. So he's got this gun. He's got to hold it up for that period of time. You know, there are a lot of things that play, but the bottom line is Korryn should be here today. She should not have been taken out, even under the circumstances that she was placed in. She should be here. Mm-hmm.
Now, I wanted to ask you about the criminal charges. Like, why did the prosecution decide not to bring criminal charges in this case? And do you think that there is any possibility of them bringing criminal charges at this point? And what happened to this officer? I don't want to go into the details about what happened. I'll allow you all to do that. Where is this officer today? What is his status? And why is he in the position?
Supervisor. And I'll let Jay go on more. What you saw in that courtroom not too many state's attorney's office, SAO office around the country have that type of talent at the bench. So let me make sure that that's clear. What you saw at that bench was the perfect combination of, you know, kind of a, you know, wild youth and myself. I had to get tapped on the knee about 5 or 6 times in trial. And I'm glad, and I want to thank Jay and Ken for allowing me to get loose on my closing, because, you know, on cross-examination, they would pull me to the side every time. Landon, where you going? Don't open that door. Where you going? And I would let them know where I was going. You know, as a humble young man, you know, you gotta know who the elder statesmen are and who have the trial experience. But to be honest with you, what they saw, and the actual prosecutor was in there that should have charged them, was in the court. I believe his name is Schellenberger. I believe that's his name. That's the one who charged Officer Spivey previously, and he decided not to charge Ruby. And you know, not to take anything away from that from the state's attorney's office, but what's up in front of that courtroom in regards to Ken Ravenel, Jay Wyndal, and myself, you can't teach what we brought to the table that day. That's not something that you that's 40 years of experience with Ken Ravenel. You know, that's being in trials when you're always the underdog. You never have the resources, and you're fighting away. Yeah, the state's attorney's offices around the country just don't have those resources. We saw it with Trayvon Martin's killer. I won't say his name. I won't dignify his name. If you would have put Jay Wyndal, Ken, and myself at that prosecutor's table, I can guarantee that man that killed Trayvon Martin would be in jail right now for the rest of his life. So certain things you just can't teach. Certain things come with, you know, doing more with less. And I believe this trial here, you know, everybody put their resources together, and they went in. I mean, it was 16 depositions taken. That rarely happens, especially when you're on the side where we're on.
More than 16.
It was just something special, man. 16, right? Yeah. It
was far more than 16.
Well, that's the ones we use. Ones I showed up to. But what I'll say is that it was special. It was special, man. And in regards to Corporal Ruby, it's a slap in the face. And I don't want to overstep my boundaries here of what can or what can't be said. And I'm pretty sure Jay Wyndal will go into his history. But he shouldn't have been on the force when he shot Korryn Gaines. And that alone is sad. And it was a slap in the face. I mean, I don't mind you staying on the force if you're not, if you weren't charged as a defense attorney, even myself, if you're not charged, if you're not convicted, you know, you shouldn't lose your job. Okay. But for them to take somebody that was a former correctional officer and pick him over other SWAT team members and other individuals within Baltimore County Police Department that I'm 100% sure never killed anyone and are far more respectful in regards to their peers, in regards to minorities. There's no way Baltimore County Police should have gave him any type of promotion. And I'll let Jay go on there. But in regards to the first topic, you know, why did they charge him? You know, unless they're gonna hire Ken, Jay Wyndal, and myself, what they saw up there was special, and I truly believe that. Yeah.
Well, I come from a different perspective and look at it differently. I believe he had all the information that we had. It didn't take us long to get this information. Like, yeah, we had to take some depositions, but he had access to the officers. I believe that he knew what we knew, that Ruby took that shot from behind the wall, that Callahan had relocated so that he would not be in the line of fire of Ruby's shot. I believe that he understood that Korryn Gaines could not have been pointing her gun towards the inside of the door without her hands being seen, and that Ruby could not have seen Korryn Gaines pointing her gun towards the inside or himself by merely seeing her 25-inch braids and the barrel of the weapon. That just doesn't make sense. And if you look at the shell casings and where they were placed directly under her body, that doesn't make sense if she allegedly fired that weapon. So Schellenberger knew, I believe, all the information that we knew. And despite having all this information, he declined to prosecute because he's just not going to do it. He just wasn't going to do it. He had access to everything we had access to and more. But he had decided that he wasn't going to do it. And he should be called to the carpet for it. He should be criticized for it. If there's someone running for office against him, they should raise it as an issue. Because Ruby, again, this was his second kill. And Ruby should not have been able to walk away from killing a woman and injuring a child. I mean, you're a man. He indicated that he had taken self-defense training. He knew how to disarm people with his bare hands, yet he chose to use an assault rifle on a 105-pound woman and her 5-year-old son. Like they were really a threat to you, Officer Ruby? Like you were really threatened by this woman? With all that firepower that you had, all that tactical experience, your boys are out on the outside of her apartment, snipers all around the window, armored personnel carrier on the patio. Are you really afraid of a mother and her 5-year-old child, that you have to release that type of terror and horror upon them to show that you are in charge, that you are the authority? And in this particular instance, you believe you were God. And I truly believe Ruby had a God complex, and that she brought forth the wrath of God. And Ruby, you know, is a sick individual, and he does not deserve to wear a badge. Like I said in my interviews, he was not a hero on that day. He was not a hero for saving the lives of his fellow officers. He was not a hero to the community for making a tough call or making a tough decision and having to live with it. He was a complete and utter coward. And I'll say it a million times, Ruby is a coward. He's a sick, sadistic, misogynistic killer cop. And he shouldn't even be able to pull cats out of a tree with a uniform on. He should be in jail. That's where he should actually be. He should be in jail. He definitely shouldn't wear a badge or carry a gun. And he should definitely be in jail. And so where is he now? Instead of jail, instead of being fired from his office, he's now Corporal Ruby. Whereas before he was Officer Ruby, and he's Corporal Detective. I can't remember if it's car thefts or something like that. But again, you put Ruby in a position where he has to work with the public. It's a bad situation, and it's volatile. It can explode at any time. And now after this, I just have no faith that he can investigate with integrity, can perform his duties with fairness, and that justice is just not in him. There's not a part of him that speaks to justice. So he's useless. And the fact that he's around, he's a waste of taxpayer monies. And it's just a matter of time before he does something else, if he doesn't retire. Mm-hmm. I think you had a second question, and I can't remember what you said. The first one was, why not criminal charges? And the third one was, where's Ruby now? But I can't remember your second one. Anson.
Yeah, I think that was it. That was pretty much it. Oh yeah, also, I wanted to know, do you think that it's possible that any charges will be brought now?
In the future? No, because he'll look like a complete, instead of looking like an a-hole, he'll look like the whole A by bringing charges now. He's not gonna do that. But somebody who runs against him can do it. But he's not gonna do that. And he's going to hope that this thing blows over and everybody forgets about it. You know, they got this big judgment, so just some modicum of justice has been served. So he's going to hope during election season, if he doesn't have an opponent, and if he does have an opponent, that they won't address this situation.
And when is he up for election? And what's his name again?
Scott Schellenberger. And I'm not certain. It must be not this upcoming primary season, but probably the next one.
And do you all anticipate the county filing an appeal in this case?
Well, I expect them to be extremely butthurt by this jury award, but they can file an appeal. The good thing about it is that if they file an appeal, that the interest rate rises at 10% per annum. So if you got a $37 million judgment that the court affirms, then you're going to end up paying another $3.7 million on that judgment just to take the appeal if you lose. And in this case, there was a lot of home cooking. There was a lot of home court advantages, and you know, so I don't know what they really have to complain about. Everything they pretty much wanted, they got. You know what I mean? We had to fight for everything we got, and a lot of stuff we got, we didn't want, and some of the stuff we wanted, we didn't get at all. And so they can appeal, but with Landon's judgment, they'll end up paying another what, $30,000 to him. With my judgment of 5.1, they'll end up spending or paying another $500,000. And for Kenny's, he's got the best situation, because if they appeal and they lose with him, they're going to end up spending another $3.2 million. So, you know, we almost welcomed the appeal because we haven't even went in for our attorney's fees yet. We're entitled to attorney's fees under 1983. So despite these judgments, we still go back in and get more money. And so, you know, and maybe that we'll use that as leverage. Like, look, you don't settle this case, we want to ask for our attorney's fees. That's going to run you up another couple million. And then if you file an appeal and you don't win, everything's at 10%, because it's going to take it a year to get through the appellate system. So you know you're going to collect at least one time 10%, and it's running every day. That interest is running on that money every day. So there you go. But I expect them to do. I expect a battery of post-trial motions. I do expect that. To see what they can do.
All right, so I just have a few more questions and we can wrap it up. You know, the next question that I have is like, what impact do you think that this case will have on policing, not only in Baltimore County, but throughout Maryland and throughout the country?
I think a message has been sent Friday that the numbers are getting higher, the exposure is getting greater, and the risks are becoming more intolerable. Like, you're going to have to get this policing issue under control because the public has seen enough and they're tired of it. And even with verdicts like this, they send a message. They send a message that, you know, we want constitutional policing. It's our right. And we demand constitutional policing. And if you can't provide that to the citizens of Baltimore County or any place else, residents of the state of Maryland, then when things like this happen, you're gonna get slammed. Like, I was just in Prince George's County on January 22nd. I tried a case down there. I was willing to settle the case for $50,000. It was a police misconduct case. We went to trial. They made me throw everything at them. The jury awarded me $643,000. In this case, we were willing to settle between $200,000 and $400,000 because we figured she had a shotgun, and that was before we peeled back all the layers through the discovery and found out that, you know, why this shot was taken and that it should not have been taken. But when we first got the case, we're like, look, she had a shotgun. It shouldn't have happened. Something went wrong. You know, we'll take X amount of dollars and we'll call it a day. They farted in our face. They're like, go screw yourself. You know what I mean? They said, go screw yourself. So I'm like, all right, okay. So we'll just keep on working. Then after a while, we was like, nah, we don't even want to discuss settlement anymore because y'all aren't going to pay us the money we're looking for. We're looking for some real money. This is a real case. This case turned into a real case. Whereas before we thought it was just something that just went wrong and we didn't know exactly what, but we knew it smelled bad. You know, we knew that it tastes funny, but we didn't know exactly what it was. And man, I mean, the message, and I got a message from this young lady yesterday who looked at the results of the case. And I know you're talking about what do we expect to change in policing, but she said something very profound to me. She said that case was the healing balm to women and children. And I was like, wow, the healing balm to women and children. Everybody was feeling this case all across the country. Women. This case was a woman's issue. This case was tangentially or somewhat interwoven into the Me Too trend that's sweeping, the Me Too movement that's sweeping across the nation, because it's all about ignoring women. You know, they're putting men's safety over women and children. And these officers were safe. They had guns, they had manpower, they had cover, they had it all. And it speaks to every woman who's ever been maligned by the media, because people dismiss what they say. They're suffering police misconduct and police abuse themselves, and they're being dismissed by society as if they're telling lies on police officers. And no, these things are happening. Korryn Gaines, they told us that she used her son as a human shield, and she pointed her weapon and was aiming at police officers, so she deserved what happened. Well, Korryn spoke from the grave, and she told us that everything that these officers ever told us about what she did that day were lies. And we were able to uncover those lies, unearth them, and put them into the grave. Whereas Korryn has arisen. She's arisen. The lies that they told have been buried at this point in time. And the truth has arisen. Truth crushed to the earth will rise again, and it has risen. And so we are happy for Friday, February 16th of 2018, because that was the Easter the Easter Friday, the day of rising, where the truth finally emerged. So yeah, it was a great day. It was a great day.
And I'll say this: I ended on regards to, you know, my closing was pretty much about, do you want what legacy that jury would leave? And did they want to leave a legacy of empowering police officers in this country to not listen to orders, individual, and then to be promoted? Or did they want to leave a legacy of justice? And, I told them to leave a legacy of justice. And they didn't give us punitive damages. They gave us everything we asked for and more. And they even asked a question in regards to Jay's client, and in regards to, hey, should we give her economic damages? And they wanted to send her a message. They wanted to send a message, oh my God, that they said, no, those non-economic damages aren't enough. We want to give her more. I think they spoke to not only those officers, but I think they spoke to all the lawyers in the case to let us know that they appreciate what we did. They thanked us. And, the legacy I know moving forward, you have Baltimore County an escalation provision of any kind in their policy. I can guarantee you that will be in there and will be in every one in the state of Maryland. I'm just, I see all we have to go through on the defense side, and with a lot of my criminal clients, and just to see 3 individuals, and I know Jay Wyndal, I believe, has than anybody at that table that I know of. I'm not too sure about Ken Civil, but I know Ken was a monster on the criminal for years. And to see, majority of the work that we've done, and a lot of Black attorneys, we have to do the criminal because our community, a lot of times, so many in our community, and I can speak to this as a young attorney, until you build this name, you don't get the benefit of the doubt as a Black lawyer. And I had the opportunity to sit beside 2 Black lawyers that already and are getting the upper class clientele, middle class to upper class clientele of Blacks that are here. And I feel as though we've been able to let the world know that, you know, Black attorneys are part of the civil rights movement. We've always fought for your rights. And for us not to sit down and get a settlement, for us to go about making sure they know that you guys have some great Black attorneys all over this country that you can go to. And we're here to fight for you. And I'll be honest, I remember sitting there with Jay Wyndal and we got this new information and talking to him like, I might want to be out, man. You know, I think I could ask him for my little bit of change and my 100 grand and be out. He was like, nah, you want to be a part of this, you know, stay in there. This is going to be a good case for all of us. And I was nervous. And until I talked about we changed the tradition, thinking about women, and then I could start thinking about my mom's love for me and all she's been through with anxiety. I mean, she, you know, anytime a police siren would go off close to our home, she would call me, hey, where are you? You close to home? I'm like, no, you know, I'm nowhere near you. And, you know, that's all because of what's been going on in regards to police brutality. And I think there was a quote that said, you know, from Korryn that said, I will live forever. I believe, and someone told me this and was kind of joking, you know, someone say something in jest, but it has some truth to it. I posted a picture of Korryn on my Facebook page of her with a painting with her with a gun and holding Cody. And a buddy of mine laughed and said, you know, y'all just got a victory for the Harriet Tubman of police brutality. And, you know, at first I chuckled like, man, get out of here. But then I started thinking about it. And, you know, all that Harriet Tubman did in regards to, you know, freeing the slaves and, you know, her saying of, I could have freed millions or more or whatever the saying, I don't have it exactly, but I could have freed more if they didn't know they were slaves. And I don't know if Jay actually caught this. I mentioned it, but I never spoke to her mental illness. I only spoke to, we all have bad days and we all have anxiety. It just happens. And I truly believe she spoke for not only women, but she, like Harriet Tubman, was mentally tougher than many of the men out here. You see it tougher than myself. I won't speak for any other men, but I can see the actions of, and I understand what he's saying. Hey, bring himself and make it available. But that young lady was, I mean, she was special. She was special, and because of her, I'm 100% sure will change. Huh?
No. I said I've said that on numerous occasions myself, that she had more courage in her little pinky than all those officers and all that armor with all the king's horses and all the king's men.
Yeah, he did say that.
Yeah, with what they had available to them. She had more courage. She didn't have on body armor. She didn't have a helmet. She didn't have an assault rifle. She didn't have the cover of a brick wall. She had a pink sundress on. She had a shotgun. That's all she had. She didn't have an armored personnel vehicle in her apartment. She didn't have counter snipers, you know, set in position around her windows. But whatever was going on in her mind, whether she was detached from reality or not, she had an unconditional agape love for her child. That was her paramount purpose in surviving. And when she was shot, if you could just only imagine what's going through her mind, and as she's drowning in her own blood, she's thinking, my son has been shot, because he's screaming. And so for an officer to say that she's thinking about shooting an officer when her son is screaming after being shot himself, like, that is just, it's offensive to an extent, but it's absurd. The first thing a parent's going to do when they see their child injured is tend to their child. They're not going to be thinking about taking out officers who are 50 deep, armed to the teeth. And so, you know, you think about those things. What are our findings? She never got a chance to say goodbye to her baby daughter, Courtney. She never got a chance to say goodbye to her mother, her father, all of her loved ones. All of these things have to be going through her mind. I'm gone now, but I just hope my son makes it. My son is hit, but I hope he makes it. I hope that they don't kill my son. And then the curtains fall. So, some very dramatic and tragic stuff that took place with her. And for you not to feel it is for you not to be a human. It's completely inhuman for you not to feel the devastation of this Holocaust that Ruby visited upon this young woman, single mother of 2 children.
Wow. So my final question is this. I noticed during the press conference, Jay Wyndal, I noticed that you had the Kaepernick jersey on. Can you speak to the significance of that? You know, why you had the jersey on, what did it symbolize?
It symbolized everything you thought it symbolized. I wore it for that reason. I've been carrying that jersey around with me from almost the beginning of this trial, because I knew there was going to be a day I was going to have to wear it, unlike somebody else over there who thought the case was 50-50. But that jersey, I'm just playing with you because we had our conversation.
Oh no, look, listen.
I'm just playing. It's all good. So I know Anthony got to go. So I wore that jersey.
Yes, right now. We got a verdict, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That is, come on, Jay. You know what we did. See, he being modest, Anson. All right? Okay? Anson, you know what we did, Anson. Come on. Strapped up, gun in house. No, I'm not coming out. What y'all gonna do about it? I'm 105 pounds. Come on.
You don't understand. You don't understand. But see, that's
I
what
love
I
her.
said to you. You don't understand. First of all, you don't understand mental illness for you to say everything that you're saying. She's not in the right mind. And you can't look at a book merely by the cover. You do have to peel back the layers if you really want to know what's really going on. You just can't look at a situation. For instance, Curtis Deal. Remember Curtis Deal in Baltimore City?
Yeah.
On film, he's shot by police. And everybody, he had a gun. And I looked at that case, I was like, yeah, he had a gun, and yeah, he shot by police, but what happened after they shot him? They let him bleed out and die on the street. They could have saved his life because none of the wounds that he received were life-threatening. It's only because they let him bleed out that he died. So I'm Curtis Deal's attorney, but as I'm working on that case, yeah, he shot him, but I'm past that. That's old news. Yeah, Korryn Gaines had a gun, but yeah, I'm past that. That's old news. What did you do to save Curtis Deal's life? What type of emergency medical treatment did you provide? Or did you just run the tape around the scene and let him bleed out and die? He could have survived that, but he didn't. In this case, Korryn, what did you do to protect her and her child? You knew she was sick. You knew going in that you were dealing with a person with a mental illness. What did you do to protect this woman and her child? Even in war, and I said this during the trial, even in war, they make special accommodations for women and children. Even the mafia makes special accommodations for women and children. And these officers who are supposed to protect and serve had no more accommodations for her than to allow the clock go past 6 hours and then take her out. I mean, that's not how we build up. Men are supposed to protect women. Men are supposed to protect their children. And the irony of it, again, is that they were there to arrest Korryn, her fiance, on a domestic violence warrant, and they end up pumping her full of 4 bullets and killing her. Korryn never killed her. He never killed her. And whatever their disharmony was in their relationship, it obviously worked itself out. They're a young couple, so they go through the ups and downs as young couples do, and sometimes they don't make the best decisions as young couples. But they had worked it out. What Ruby did was irreparable. And so, yeah, I wore that jersey. I wore that jersey for everyone who ever kneeled for justice, whoever stood for justice, whoever won for justice, whoever lost for justice, whoever fought for justice, and whoever sacrificed for justice. That's why I wore that jersey. And I wore that jersey out of solidarity with Colin Kaepernick. That's why I wore
it. And let me make sure I add on there. During the depositions, Ruby came in there multiple times with Baltimore Ravens gear on. It hurt me to my soul to be this is the first year I was able to be a PSL owner for seats. And once he wore that jersey, I knew then that at first it was like, I'm giving up my season tickets. It's going to be tough to do it, but I'm going to give up my season tickets. After he wore that jersey, it was no longer tough for me to give up my season tickets this year. And, you know, being a young attorney in my career right now, you know, there's certain things that I may not feel as comfortable with doing at this moment, at this early stage of my career. But it's a beautiful thing being next to Jay Wyndal as well as Ken, who were able to, you know who they are as lawyers, as well as can articulate certain things to a judge when they know certain things are right and wrong, you know. And I just, you know, for everything that's going on, you know, I quoted a J. Cole quote, you know, when I posted my little social media. What's the price of a man's life? Check the toe tag, not a zero in sight. And, you know, we had 2 commas and about 6 zeros, you know, in this case. And all that's going on in Baltimore, the Baltimore Ravens at this point, hopefully they can't deny it, because we did get a verdict. This was not silence. This, I'm going to shoot you in the back and then give you, you know, $4 million. Shoot you in the back and give you $6 million. No, we you know, you can multiply that by 5, you know. And it was special. This is, you know, I've had some other breaks in my career. I won't call this claim, but this is definitely, this may be the biggest thing I may ever be a part of. I think I've had some other career defining situations in my life in regards to where I am in my career. But in regards to career, how this is probably going to be the biggest, this may be the biggest thing that I ever may do, not because of the money or anything like that, but just because of the impact. So, yeah, man. And not only the impact, but just my own development as well as an attorney. You know, I'm sitting next to 2 guys who, you know, and, you know, and in my development, it may go in my auto bio one day, in regards to, you know, me and Jay going at it during lunch. One thing about me, I'm strong. Like, I'm East Baltimore through and through the one. My homeboys call me the Wolf of North Avenue. But I never even told anybody until this case. I always just say I'm the one. And what a lot of people don't realize is when you have older attorneys that, you know, that hold you accountable, it means more than anything else. There was one point in time where, you know, you talk about your development, and, you know, Jay, I was like, you know, hey, you're not prepared. You're not prepared. And I talked to Roland. I was like, Roland, like, I thought I was. And he's right, because until you sit next to Ken Ravenall, until you sit next to Jay Wyndal, you have no idea to be prepared. And so when I don't know if Jay saw me, I was like looking at his notes and kind of seeing how he would break things down, because when you're a solo, I didn't start out in the public defender's office. I didn't start out in the prosecutor's office. My mentor, who was his mentor, basically retired when I started my practice. So I'm going at it on my own and just learning things through it. I never had an older attorney really sit me down and show me the ropes. My ropes were just jumping in cases. My first trial, I didn't even know how to postpone it. Judge Peters gave me the trial on Tuesday. I had to pick a jury Tuesday night. Openings were the next morning. Okay, I lucked up and won a carjacking case, but that's something totally different. And you know, I went home, and that was the day before we did Officer Griffin. And it's just beautiful, man, to know that, you know, okay, you got the talent, but talent means nothing in this business. It's all about work ethic. It's all about getting better. You know, those 2 gentlemen definitely not only, you know, kind of inside kind of comments, and they had a lot in the beginning, you know, but after my opening, it kind of like, all right, we got something here from young fella. You know, even I think Jay even tapped me, was like, you got some chops there, young fella. Okay, I wasn't expecting that.
That's really good opening.
And
I didn't know what I didn't know what this joke was going to say. I didn't know. I was like, man, I didn't know, but he was solid with his opening. He was so solid that it upset my clients, because the underlying tone is that they never really got along very well, the mother and the father, and so that's how you know it was good, because it got under her skin.
And
you painted a great picture of the dad.
I had to go and let her know, even before my close. I'm like, look, you know, I gotta bring this in. I love you. And you know, Rhonda, I'll say this: Rhonda could have easily, you know, the entire time.
No, we
Jay did
we wouldn't do anything like that. We wouldn't do anything like that. We would never do anything like that.
No, I'm talking about after the trial. I'm saying she could have easily, like Jay was there, and it's a good thing, Jay. Trust me, it's a good thing. Jay was there in the during the interview, okay? And my client any TV at all, okay? So, you know, and I wasn't around, I wasn't there. I didn't do any post interviews at all. Mind you, I am happy. You know, I definitely went out and celebrated, as any young man would in this type of case. But and she, you know, Jay did an amazing job. And I think it was just something on her heart, man. I think it was something really on her heart that I wasn't there. I think Ken was there. And, you know, she could have easily just said, you know, Jay, I'm so happy about Jay Wyndal, which Jay did an amazing job. I mean, from start to finish, did an amazing job. And I was happy when she said, you know, she thanked her dream team of lawyers. And, you know, I'm not too sure what these guys are doing. I know I'm going to continue getting better. But it was special. It was special. It was just a great kind of combination of, like, everybody was different. Like Jay is probably, you know, the mix between both of us. And, you know, in regards to, he's very meticulous, but he also has he's the warrior, you know, he's the warrior. So Jay has a good mix of being meticulous and walking somebody down, as well as being the warrior. Ken Ravenel didn't really come out his bag until his closing. So his emotion, I didn't really see until his closing, and he's down on their examinations. And you know, just being able to see that, it was special, man. We really were a dream team. And I think over time, I was even able to garner the respect of both Ken as well as Jay, because at first Ken was no. And then I talked to Jay, and Jay was like, nah, get yours off. You gotta, come on, young fella, we need you. You're gonna think of some stuff that we didn't get in. And towards it, especially when I walked Ruby straight into the fact that he was recording. He walked straight into it, man. It was kind of like, oh, we getting that in? Okay. And then they let me get loose on my closing. And it was just a good thing, because, you know, you hear Ken's, and then about, you know, you might want to use that again. And you hear Jay Wyndal's and his analogies of, you know, of women, and he used it. I mean, we didn't talk about it, but he used this analogy about women in the gym. And literally, you know, I had just got that same scenario about 2 weeks or maybe like a few months ago, about men and how women don't want to even work out in the gym with other men. They just women want to work in the gym by themselves. And Jay brought that up, and you could just see the jury, like, you know, shaking their head in agreement with him. Now Jay went hard. He went hard on closing. And he went hard at Ruby. He went hard. I mean, the sadistic, all the king's horses, all everything you hear right now. I was sitting up there looking at Judge Norman like, all right, he gonna let this in. He gonna let this in. But then, you know, when you see somebody get loose, like Jay Wyndal got loose, you know, it allowed me to, you know, bring my towel down a little bit and so when I pointed at those officers, man, they just knew I was going to say something negative, and I thanked them. They had these faces like, what is he going to say about us? And then I said, I want to thank you for not shooting. They couldn't, like, their faces couldn't change, because you can't go from mad what he gonna say to, oh, we wasn't expecting that, right? And then I walk each one of them down, say he didn't shoot, he didn't shoot, he didn't shoot. Look, Jay smiling, he saw it.
No, I smiled, right, because I was like, I know this joker just didn't thank these jokers, right? But then when he came around, he said, I thank you for not shooting. I said, whoa. So yeah, boy, go ahead with that. Go ahead with that. I was rooting for you there. I was like, yeah, that was solid. That was a moment. See, this trial had everything. This trial had everything in it except sex and drugs. I mean, but every drama, you name it. It had drama, it had violence, it had everything. I mean, everything. I mean, we was bringing the noise because we had points to make. Yeah, I'm serious, man. It had everything. And like a lot of trials are stale and dry. When you go to them, a bunch of sidebars and everything. But this one, once we were in the mix of it, it was pretty dramatic. Like at every turn, it was drama. Whether it was me, Ken, or even Landon, it was drama. It was something that was captivating, and people were telling me, they said I had to leave. I just had to leave. I didn't want to leave. I wished I could come back. I mean, people were in that gallery. I mean, a lot of times, and even during closing, I mean, there were a few seats available, but only a few seats available. That courtroom stayed packed. It stayed packed for 3 weeks.
Well, this has been a great discussion, and I know you all have things to do, and this has been great. I truly appreciate you all participating, and I want to congratulate you all again on a great victory. In a case that I'm sure many people doubted that you all had a chance of winning this case, and you proved all the doubters and haters wrong. So I got to salute y'all, man. Much respect. I truly appreciate all you have done. And I don't have nothing but respect for y'all, man. And I appreciate y'all.
Where are you posting this, and when is it going to air? Or
yeah, so right now it's on my. I have different YouTube channels. This channel called I Declare War, but I'm going to post it on my New Possibilities channel. I'm going to record it and post it on my New Possibilities channel, and I will send you the link. I'll send you the link once it's uploaded.
You send the link to me.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, peace. Thanks a lot, John.
All righty. Bye.